last video we did some pretty good stuff. Now, today we're going to be doing if statements. Now, if statements are actually very simple. It's essentially asking if something is the case, and if it is not the case, then you do something else. But if it's the case, then you execute the code. So let's see an example of that. So if we were to go, well, before we do that, let's just create a variable. So let's say int I equals 12. And let's go down here and let's say if I is equal to 12, you do double equal, right? You don't do a single equal because Java is used to this being a way to assign variables. So this is basically asking if this is true or false, basically, right? And then we put our curly braces here as the body of it. So if I equals 12, then we're going to system.out.println, and let's just say true. And then obviously, okay, well, what happens if it's not equal to 12? If it's not equal to 12, then right underneath the if statement, right underneath it, we then go else. So else, as in if there's anything else, then anything else other than this, right here, then let's say, just to keep things simple, copy and paste it, false. Alright, and here we go. So we have true, which is expected because it is 12. But what if it wasn't 12 and it was just 4? Well, let's save that, run it. We get false, right? Now this actually relates to another thing, and this is why I was waiting to talk about this before, but this relates to another data type known as a boolean or boolean. And these can only be one or the other, and that is, so let's just call it is 12, right? Is it 12? That's the name. It could be anything, yet again. But typically booleans will be called is something. It doesn't have to be like that. And let's make it equal to false, right? By just assign it to false. Now, as you can see here, false, it's not like a string or anything. This is one of the states it could be in, or it could be true. So you use this basically you'll use this every time you have a true or false situation. And it's a good way, usually it's a good way to check if something is true or false. You'll check the value of this based on some sort of, if something happens, you look at this value and you're like, okay, well, this is false, so that means that, we don't do this, or we do this. Alright, so let's say if I is equal to 12, then we can say is 12 equals true, right? So in this case, it'll be equal to true. And else, well, we can just kind of copy this, but we can say, well, it's false if it's anything but 12. And obviously, we want to be able to know if it's the case or not in the console. And we can actually go outside of the if and the else statements, and we can go system.out.println, and then we'll go is 12. This kind of shows you what booleans can do. Alright, and then we get false. So this is sort of like a better way of doing that string thing, and really it saves space too, and that's another thing. It kind of saves space. It's cleaner and it's more readable. And so let's make it equal to 12, and we get true, right? Yeah, we get true. So what's another thing you can do with if statements? Well, you can use them with functions slash, what else? Methods. I was thinking, what else? Yeah, methods. Methods of functions, right? Just like we looked at last time. So let's create a function. We'll call it static. What should we do? Static is 4. Right? Is 4. Is it 4? That's what this function does. It asks the question, is it 4? Now, of course, we need to put our return type. This time, we're going to put Boolean. Right? This is our return type. So, yet again, we need to return. We need to return whatever the value is. In this case, we're not going to worry about that yet because we're going to use our if statement. If, okay, let's say a is equal to 4. Alright, then we put our body. Then let's go return true. Now, yet again, a hasn't been declared, so let's just quickly go int a. Alright, and let's go on here, add return statement. Else. Now, this just means we have to basically have like a return that's guaranteed, pretty much. Alright, that's basically what I was saying. Because if we just left it as if, and we didn't have an else, then, if it wasn't 4, then we wouldn't actually know what to do. So, it has to have a return no matter what, even if you don't know what to do with it. So, I know, it sounds convoluted. But let's go system.out.println, and let's say we wanted to print out is 4. Alright, like I said before, you can treat these basically as if it's a value, because it basically is. Let's say we want to put 4 in there, so is 4 4? Alright, is it 4? So we're going to get true, right? So this is an example of something you would probably use not only booleans for, but also if statements for. Yet again, ifs can be used for pretty much anything. It doesn't have to be booleans. It can be, say, if something is greater than. So let's say if a is greater than 4, which means we would get false. But okay, what if we put a different value in, like 7? I think 7's greater than 4, isn't it? Yeah, we'll get true, right? So that's another thing you can do, greater than. You can also do greater than or equal to, right? And that'll give us the same result, but you can also put 4 in there, and this time we'll actually get true for 4 as well. What if we have it so that it is not equal to 4? So you use this exclamation mark if you're asking whether it's not equal to 4. And in this case we get false. So this is kind of like reversing the two roles, basically. So yeah, and that's pretty much how it is. Yet again, same will apply for less than. I think, does it go the other way? Yeah. So it's almost like an arrow. And then of course you can make it so it's not equal, so then we get false, yada yada yada. So that's an example of how you would use an if statement, and also how you would use else.